Have you ever told someone, "I'm 5 minutes away," when in reality you haven't even left the house yet? Or maybe you nodded and smiled while someone told you a wild story you weren't sure was true, but you went along with it anyway? Whether we like to admit it or not, lying is something we all do. And believing lies? That's even more common. Today, we're diving into a topic that's as fascinating as it is uncomfortable: why we lie and why we believe lies. It's not just about catching someone in the act or pointing fingers. This is about understanding how our brains, our emotions, and our social systems are wired to both create and consume falsehoods. And trust me, once you understand how all this works, you'll never look at a harmless little lie the same way again. Let's start with the lying part. Lying is actually a deeply human behavior. Most people think of lies as bad or immoral, but from a psychological standpoint, lying is incredibly common and often, oddly enough, completely normal. Research shows that the average person lies at least once or twice a day. That's not just criminals or shady characters. This includes people who consider themselves honest and upstanding. But not all lies are created equal. There's a huge spectrum. On one end, we have white lies, those small, seemingly harmless fibs we tell to smooth out social situations. Think of saying, "That was delicious," when you really didn't like the meal, or "You look great," when someone's new haircut is questionable. These lies are often told to spare feelings, avoid conflict, or maintain politeness. Then, there are self-serving lies. These are the lies we tell to protect ourselves, maybe from embarrassment, punishment, or social judgment. Like blaming traffic for being late when you actually just overslept. These lies are more about managing how others see us and keeping our image intact. There are also altruistic lies, lies told not for our own gain, but to help or protect someone else, like lying to a friend about their performance to keep their confidence up. And finally, we have the more serious malicious lies. These are told with the intent to deceive or manipulate others for personal advantage, often at someone else's expense. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Lying isn't just something we do, it's something we develop. Kids begin lying as early as age 3. That may sound troubling, but actually, it's a developmental milestone. It shows they've begun to understand that other people can think differently than they do, a concept called theory of mind. Essentially, in order to lie, you have to be able to imagine someone else's perspective, know what they know, and anticipate how they'll react. In that sense, lying requires a lot of brain power. It involves memory, imagination, emotional control, and the ability to plan and predict outcomes. So ironically, learning to lie is actually a sign of cognitive growth. But lying isn't just an individual behavior, it's social. In many cases, lying helps maintain relationships, prevent social friction, and keep communities functioning smoothly. That doesn't make it right, but it does explain why it's so persistent. We live in a world where full, brutal honesty isn't always rewarded. In fact, in some cases, it's seen as rude or inappropriate. So we learn to bend the truth, just a little. Now let's flip the script. Why do we believe lies? This part is even more puzzling. You'd think that with all the access we have to information, books, news, the internet, we'd be better at spotting falsehoods, but we're not. In many cases, we're worse. There are several psychological reasons we believe lies, and one of the biggest is cognitive bias. Our brains are constantly trying to make sense of a chaotic, complex world. To do that efficiently, we rely on mental shortcuts, patterns, associations, habits of thinking. These shortcuts can be helpful, but they also make us vulnerable to believing things that aren't true. One of the most powerful biases is confirmation bias. This is our tendency to favor information that confirms what we already believe and to dismiss information that contradicts it. So if someone presents a lie that fits our worldview, we're more likely to accept it without question. It doesn't matter how smart or educated we are, confirmation bias affects everyone. Another reason we believe lies is the repetition effect, also known as the illusory truth effect. Simply put, the more often we hear something, true or false, the more familiar it becomes. And familiarity often gets mistaken for truth. So a statement repeated often enough, even without evidence, can start to feel real. This is a tactic used in advertising, propaganda, and political messaging all the time. Emotion also plays a huge role. When we're emotionally invested, whether through fear, anger, hope, or loyalty, we're more likely to believe things that align with those emotions. Emotional content tends to bypass our critical thinking. That's why emotionally charged stories or headlines spread faster and more widely than dry, factual ones. Trust in authority is another factor. If a message comes from someone we admire or believe in, whether that's a public figure, a parent, a teacher, or a favorite influencer, we're more likely to believe it. We trust the messenger, so we trust the message. That's why misinformation can spread so easily through social networks and communities. It's not just the content, it's who's delivering it. Social belonging also plays a part. Sometimes we accept lies or avoid questioning them because we want to stay connected to a group. Challenging a lie might mean rocking the boat, facing conflict, or being ostracized. So we go along with the story, even when something feels off. When you combine all of these factors, bias, repetition, emotion, authority, and social pressure, it's no wonder lies can take hold so easily. And once a lie is believed, it can be incredibly hard to undo. People become attached to beliefs. They become part of identity. Admitting the truth can feel like losing part of yourself. But here's the good news. The more aware we are of these mental traps, the better we can navigate them. So what can we do? First, we can get curious about our own behavior. When we lie, why are we doing it? Is it to protect someone, to protect ourselves? Are we avoiding discomfort, or are we manipulating someone for gain? The more honestly we reflect on our motives, the more control we have over them. Second, we can practice slowing down our reactions. If a story, headline, or claim feels emotionally charged, that's a signal to pause and think before accepting or sharing it. Ask, where is this coming from? What's the evidence? Who benefits from me believing this? Third, we can be open to being wrong. That might be the hardest step of all. Admitting that we've believed something false can feel embarrassing or even threatening. But it's also incredibly powerful. It means you're growing. It means you're choosing truth over ego. Lying isn't going away. It's part of how we navigate the world. And believing lies, that's something even the smartest, most skeptical people do. But if we understand the patterns, if we learn how and why these behaviors work, we can start to make better choices. We can protect ourselves from manipulation. We can build more honest relationships. And maybe, just maybe, we can create a culture that values truth a little more than convenience. Now I want to hear from you. What's a lie you once believed that turned out to be completely false? Or if you're brave, what's a lie you told that you thought was harmless but ended up mattering more than you expected? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read your stories and see how others are thinking about this too. If you found this video interesting or helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. I've got more deep dives like this coming up, exploring the strange, surprising, and often hilarious ways our brains work. Thanks for watching. Stay honest, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.